world that seems to have an insatiable desire for food, for exploitation of resources, for personal gratification, without what would seem a care in the world for the well-being of biodiversity. It is, of course, some of these practices that have perhaps put us in the current situation, which we may consider it unfortunately, but to some extent it could be fortunately, because we are forced to re-examine ourselves, our actions, or indeed inactions with regard to the protection of the environment. We are, of course, forced to take stock of what's happening in the context of the environmental protection, and challenges like COVID-19, economic meltdown, and conflict brought about by the fight for resources. And one of the key questions that will inform these discussions include why should we care about biodiversity? And I suppose, as you are all aware, that biodiversity collectively describes a vast array of many organisms, apparently approximately 9 million organisms that include every species of bacteria, virus, plants, fungi, and of course animals, including ourselves as human beings. And it is important to state that without these organisms and ecosystems and ecological processes, we would most likely not exist because they are part of our very well-being. They provide the oxygen that we breathe, that is necessary for our living. They provide the food. They provide clean water. They fix carbon, fix nutrients, and keep us alive in one way or another. And of course, we know that the media plays a critical role in helping protect the environment. And of course, important bodies like the UNEP are key sources of not only authoritative information, but information that is critical to the operations and well-being of the media, given the fact that media and journalists rely on sources of what I may call truthful and accurate information to do what the most important thing, which is supply people with information upon which they base their decisions. So UNEP and the media and journalists, of course, have that symbiotic relationship, a beneficial relationship that ought to work for both parties or both actors. So we are partners to a large extent in protecting and promoting biodiversity and other issues that are key to human development. And it goes without saying that biodiversity and human well-being and development is important. So how do we make this partnership work? How do we ensure that the partnership is effective? I suppose this is one of the questions that we're going to examine today, including others like how do we strengthen the partnerships that we have? And what should this partnership be based on? How do we foster the partnership to ensure its effects or it benefits us as journalists and you as maybe UNEP that are involved and at the front line of protecting the environment, so that the information that is provided helps both organizations, the media to operate, the media to inform, the media to provide a platform for sharing information, but also for aggregating public opinion, but also the UNEP as a way of collecting information that informs some of the decisions and policies that they want to advance. So this forum today offers an opportunity to engage with one another, to interrogate the place of the media in the protection and promotion of biodiversity, but also the place of UNEP given the challenges that we have today. And to help us interrogate some of these issues, we have a panel of distinguished speakers, including Dr. Joyce Msuya, who is the Deputy Executive Director of UNEP. Welcome, Dr. Msuya. And I'm hoping that Samuel Maina, the Vice President of the Kenya Editors Guild and Editor-in-Chief of Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, has joined us. Is Maina here yet? I'm not sure I can see him from the list, but we may give then this opportunity to Rosalia Omungo, who's the CEO or Chief Executive Officer of the Kenya Editors Guild, to make a few remarks on behalf of the Kenya Editors Guild and the East African Editors Forum. But in the panel, we also have Dorothy Kweyu, who I say is a mentor of many journalists in this country. And in Eastern Africa, she's a veteran journalist and currently a consultant revised editor at the Daily Nation. She will speak on critical environmental journalism and what are the reporters and editors missing out, because sometimes we believe that there is a lot that editors miss out as they do their work. We also have Francis Openda, who is the weekend and business editor at Radio Africa Group, which publishes The Star and runs Kiss FM as part of their business. And lastly, we have Bernard Mwinzi, who is the managing editor of the weekend editions at the Nation Media Group, and is also the Science editor at the Nation Media Group. So, we bring together a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience that would benefit the people that are attending today, including journalists from the region and partners from UNEP. So welcome to today's forum. I would like first to ask that we observe very simple rules, like muting our microphones when we're not speaking. Raising your hand, there's a facility to raise your hand on the right-hand side of your platform when you want to speak, and waiting, of course, for your turn to speak. Participants other than panelists are muted by default, but that doesn't mean that they cannot ask any questions or engage in conversations with the panelists and speakers. So there is on the bottom hand side, there is a chat facility, and there's a question and answer facility which you can use to ask any questions or make any interventions that you may have. And lastly, before we start, I would like to say that for the last few weeks, as the Kenya Editors Guild and members who are the editors in many media houses, we've been stopping at exactly midday to appreciate workers at the front line of COVID-19 outbreak response. This is as a way of appreciating the roles that they play in trying to contain the pandemic, but also celebrating them for dedicating themselves to that cause. And now, to help us kick off this meeting, I'd like to invite Sam Maina, if he's joined us, but I can't see him. But in his absence, I would like to ask maybe Rosalia to make a few remarks, especially on the, and perhaps maybe talk briefly about the cross-border relations and how journalism can be used to advance environmental issues and protection. Welcome, Rosalia. If Sam is not here already,